Hi everybody, this is Rachel Kinnison from Diane K Folk Art, and today I'm going to share some closer views of my casket. Now, I've already shared this casket on YouTube. If you look back in my videos, I have a video of the interior, which I'm not going to bother showing you today since I already have it on a video. And I already did a quick peek at the outside, but in terms of bead perspective, I want to give you some closer views today on some things, some ideas for using your antique beads. These are all antique beads. I won this carcass, the actual casket body, in a beadwork competition, making my beaded basket that I showed in an earlier video. And so I thought it was only fitting that I worked this one in beaded stump work, since I wanted in a bead competition. So I've been collecting antique beads my entire life. These are what you would call sable beads in the period. They're very, very tiny beads. Now they call them micro seed beads. But if I put my thumb in here, you can see how tiny these beads really are. Some of them are more than 50, 55, 60 per inch size-wise. So I thought I would just share a little bit today about some of the more detailed aspects. That is a burden stitch that I've done in beads. My camera's trying to focus. There it goes. And it just gives you so much dimension, and not to mention the colors. The colors of, a lot of the antique beads, you can't get those colors today because the elements that they used in the chemistry to make the glass is not available anymore. So they really do bring colors and vibrancy that you just can't get with the modern bead. For the grotto here on the front, I guess since we're looking at the front, I'll look at the front first, and maybe I'll do more than one video. So this front, it was real 17th century style and inspiration, because in their period grottos, they would incorporate pieces that maybe their dad, their father, their brother, their husband would bring home from abroad. Gems, agates, rocks, crystals, corals, shells, all sorts of wonderful things that they would incorporate into their embroidery, and I thought I'd do the same. I actually picked these shells here when I was stationed on Guam. Picked them off the beach there. That one. This one here is a gift from a dear friend. So these can be drilled very carefully and then incorporated, stitched on. Everything is stitched on to this piece. Nothing is glued on except for the panels being glued onto the box when you're finished. But as you can see, I've also used coral picked from the beach. So all of these pieces here are real coral, and I just love the way it looks. Now, the beads for the grotto, that sparkle that you see there, these are marguerites. The modern term for these are charlottes, and a charlotte is a single cut. It's not a cut into the bead. So how these beads were made in the period was that the beads were made in Italy, and then they were sent to Bohemia, which is Czechoslovakia today. And while there, they were strung on a wire, held down to a grindstone, and a single facet was ground into the beads. That's all that was done in Bohemia. Then they were sent back to Italy, where they were sold. They call them charlottes now, but they were originally called marguerites, and these were the most expensive of any seed bead on the market, just because of all that extra work just to get that one facet in there. They really are beautiful. and I've used them in the water as well. Now, the mermaid's tail is just, I don't know if it's picking it up, but it's so luminous. And her tail I made out of beetle wings. I cut beetle wings and stitched them on scales on her tail. So that's fun. She's one of my sculpted figures. But these are all beads. Very tiny, tiny beads here. The roses are, if my camera will focus, I hope it'll focus for you. The roses are all wire edge, and if you really look closely, they have a bee in them. There's all sorts of bees. We have bees here, and so I always like to incorporate little teeny tiny bees. There's one right there. Oh, is it focusing? Do you see it right there in the middle of that rose? And they stand out from the rose. This little tiny guy hanging out there, going to pollinate my flowers for me. But this is beaded raised work. The same techniques that you would use in 17th century stump work, but it is indeed raised work. Stump work is a modern term as well. Just using beads instead of silks. And so we have the shadow worked leaves, the background, and then we have the raised leaf in the foreground. And the same with the petals. I do give you this technique in my upcoming class. It starts on the 1st of October. It's beneath the post oak. So you'll learn this technique of how to make these wonderful three-dimensional beaded flowers and leaves in that class. And the frieze here, the pansy, butterflies. You know, I really love snails. Don't ask me why, but I just love snails, and you'll see them all over. Every single panel on my casket has a snail on it except for the top panel. And strawberries. So I kept with the 17th century inspiration of design, the composition of design. The mermaid in the grotto I actually took from a unfinished mirror panel. I kind of tweaked her a little bit to suit my taste. But that is the front. Now I'll share with you I don't want to make this too long of a video and bore you to death, but this is the lid, and this is the allegory for victory. I thought that was a fitting allegory for the top since I won this case. So we have more three-dimensional butterflies here, and these ones you see I've used steel cut, larger steel cut beads. You know, use different size beads. You don't have to use all one size beads. There's beads of all different shapes and sizes on here. They really do go well together. Look, you can see another little bee right here. Just a little tiny guy. And this is, so this rose is the same technique as I showed you these ones down here. Right? Same exact technique, wire edge technique. Oh, come on, camera. There we go. But the only difference is here, this is using a millinery wire for the edge, which is a round, kind of tubular wound wire. It's very sparkly, very pretty. So I use that for the edge instead of the flat wire. This little guy, he has real peacock feathers in between the beads of his body. And then as well, you'll notice all the different types of seed beads. So these are opal opal beads here. It's just a type of glass. It's opalescent glass. It's not totally solid. It's not transparent, and it's not greasy. It has the shine of an opal. Now here, these are not opaque, but these are what they call greasy beads, these blue ones, different shades of greasy blue beads. And that is that the light can enter the bead and it kind of gets trapped in there and bounces around. And greasy beads, they just really, really glow. They're really beautiful beads. And then we have some more opal beads. We have transparent beads. You'll see these beads here in the cartouche. These are transparent beads, so the light can really get in there and bounce around. They're very shiny. Her hair is a solid opaque beads. She has opal beads for her feathers on her wings. So using not only different sizes of beads, but different types of beads, meaning solid, transparent, opal, greasy. And the closest thing you're going to get today in a modern bead is what they call sol gel beads, check beads. They're a pretty good match for greasy beads, but they're not as lustrous as the antique ones. Just because, like I said, the chemistry of the beads, of the glass itself, has changed over time. So this is her headdress. And I made her headdress the same as I would those roses. They're a wire edge technique. And then you assemble them. It's just like really fun floral, if you've gone to a class for flower arranging, you do the same things. You just make all your beads and your leaves, all your flowers and your leaves in beads, and then you just have fun arranging them into great, marvelous things when you get done. And in her hand is turkey feathers. It's actually a quill of one of my turkeys. It's a palm frond. Originally, it should be a palm frond, and so I incorporated a lot of special things into this casket that I have collected. And this is from one of my turkeys, Mr. Giving. He let me have one of his feathers, and so I shaved a feather off with a quill, shaved the quill down, and then dyed it, and voila. So it worked just really wonderful. I sculpted her bust. She has real seed pearls around her neck. Like I said, I love using real pearls. These pearls here are so tiny, super tiny to get a drilled pearl. That small is very rare. A friend of mine made the lampwork embellishments here, and we patterned these after the angels on a casket at the Burl collection. And so these are reproductions of those flourishes that are on there. So these are all hand-worked lampwork glass, little tiny embellishments. So I think that's all I'll do for today. So I don't bore you guys with just talking on and on. But I will make another video of the back and the sides, and I'll share that in the next few days. Thanks for watching. Bye.